Welcome to the Blah 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 Career Cast, focused on sharing the career stories of real people. I'm Jennifer Chenoweth, a wife, mom, Midwesterner, and career coach. I'm excited for you to meet my friend Gautham, a global retail leader, serial reinventor, and self-proclaimed starter. His career journey is full of pivots, purpose, and perspective. And this conversation is equally parts candid, funny, and deeply wise. Enjoy. So you grew up in Dubai.
Yeah, I'm
You
Indian
went,
originally, and I grew up in Dubai. Yeah,
and you you went to undergrad at University of Wisconsin-Madison. By the way, we
that's
share that
right.
in common.
That's right. Go Badgers.
How did you end up in Wisconsin?
You know, I was 16 years old, I guess, when I got the acceptance to go to college. I came to college when I was 17.
Wow.
And my family had all gone to India to get educated. My sister, I have an older sister, she went to Wisconsin, to India. And I got brochures. And the two colleges I got accepted to was UT Austin and UW-Madison. And this is way back in the day, so you had just the brochure to flip through. There was no campus visit. I couldn't do anything. So we all knew where Texas was. And I knew Texas as like hot, dry, you have some like cowboys. And my parents and I had no idea what what a Wisconsin was. So we pulled out, you like old school again, you pulled out a map. We had an atlas, you pulled out the atlas and you had to go like X3 to find
Yeah.
Wisconsin. And then it was this place up north just above Chicago. And I was like, man, it's like near the mob and mafia and Chicago. That'd be sweet. Let's go there.
Mhm.
So I looked at the brochure, and the brochure had some guy snowboarding, and I think there was a girl drinking a beer, and I was like 17 years old, and I was in
I'm in.
Dubai, and I was like, I've never seen snow and never had a beer. Let's
Yes.
go. And I
Yeah,
saw a
you'll get
lot of snow and beer. Yeah.
if that's what you're looking for, you'll get that
Yeah.
from Wisconsin.
I literally made my college decisions based on ice cold beer.
I mean, as many
It sounds
decisions.
really good, right? Right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
So you went to undergrad at Wisconsin. Then
Mhm.
did you go directly to get your master's degree right after undergrad?
No, I tried to find a job for about a year. It was I graduated right after 9/11. Like, I was an international student, so I had to get visas and stuff like that. Couldn't find a single visa. So I looked for about a year trying to find a job. I did like campus jobs out there and just I did like odd jobs the entire time and then ended up in Kentucky, Murray State, Kentucky for grad school.
You went to grad school and your undergrad with a focus of economics, and you started
Yeah.
your career in finance.
In finance. Yeah. I thought I was going to be like, Wolf of Wall Street. I was going to be an
Oh,
investment banker, make a lot of money, right? That was going to be the goal. So I literally took a Greyhound bus from Kentucky. I went and crashed at a friend's couch and I worked in an investment bank and I was working like 120 hours a week. It was like a small boutique company called Rodberg and Company. Great. I got a great level of education there, but it was crazy amount of work. So I didn't last that long. I lasted a little less than a year on the role, but I love the environment. Like the group was all it was just a bunch of dudes just working.
yeah. Well,
Uh,
that's the great jobs out of college, like teach you something. Like just land a job and learn some stuff.
yeah.
And then make the next decision. But the key is that first job and just getting something,
Oh
someone
yeah.
to take a bet on you. And you had a master's degree, which is huge. Just to steal the show a little bit. You've been at some really big organizations. You've been at Google, you've been at Target, you've been at REI, you've been at Nike. You have moved
Yeah.
all across the country with your career. You've done a lot of things, but you started your career thinking, I'm going to be the Wolf of Wall Street.
Yeah, I that's what I thought. And I could feel the soul getting sucked out of me. It was a very tiring job, and I realized really fast that money was little secondary versus like my disposable free time, right?
Yeah,
That I needed
yeah,
as part of it.
yeah.
And so, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a straightforward path. I mean, what you don't see in the resume is I went from Rodberg and Company, I went and worked at Google. I started off as a contractor at Google, which was, again, absolutely intense. I used to live out in, like, anybody knows San Francisco, I used to live out in Treasure Island. It used to take me 2.5 hours through the BART and the bus to get to Google. And I used to work at Google and take 2 hours back. So 4.5 hour commute every single day. And then I just got burnt out. So I was like, you know what? I've done my master's. I'm going to grow my beard out. I like schools. I like education. I'm like, maybe I should go do my PhD. And
Mm.
so I packed up my stuff. I applied for University of Knoxville, Texas. And I actually went and did my PhD for a year when I was out there. I started getting my education there.
Wow.
Um, yeah, and then after studying there for a year, I got a random phone call from Target to come over and join the clinics team. And I just thought I was doing my PhD and I thought I could finish off my PhD, but I'll finish off later. Maybe I'll go to Target, get some inspiration, and come back.
Yeah.
And then I loved it at Target. And
Yeah. What was it about Target that made you say yes, other than we're opening up some retail clinics, so totally
yeah,
a model no one's ever done again. Target's shiny,
yeah,
happy, and now we want to get in the healthcare industry. And
yeah.
so, what are you thinking when you hear about this concept?
Honestly, what I got identified at that point in time is what has actually driven my entire attitude for
Mm,
career since then. I like coming and starting something or fixing something. If
mm,
it's a regular business, I'm the worst person you need on the team. If it's just regular, it's running, it's growing at a steady pace, I'm terrible. I'll come and break it. I'll ruin the business. I'll try to create something new. But if it has nothing, it's just absolutely abstract, or there's something that you have to do to turn it around, um, that just get the juices flowing. I obsess about it. I want to try new things. I want to think outside the box. And so it was a great opportunity. One is retail clinics wasn't set up. It's kind of all over the place. There were literally like 5 or 6 people trying to run it. You're trying to create it within this giant behemoth Target, and you're trying to get it stood up. And there's politics internally, there's systems that don't quite exist, there's like finance kind of all over the place. You derive strategy going through. In the future, you get to travel. I was doing all these different conferences, and I thought, wow, this is great. And then, oh wow, Target also gives you the opportunity to do something else.
yeah,
After a year and a half, you can switch, you can go somewhere else and do something else.
yeah,
So it's great for someone that's kind of has a little bit of chronic ED. I was like, this is great. I can do this. I can get it stood up, and now I can move to something else.
yeah.
And that was the sell for me, a target that kept me
Yeah,
going.
you were there for what, was it about 8 years that you stayed
Yeah,
at
8, 9 years.
Target?
And I kept jumping to other things. And my wife calls me a nomad for a reason, but that's what it is, right? So like I went to strategy, and in strategy I got to work on like private labels, I got to work on pharmacy, I got to work on Hispanic food, I got to work on like mergers and acquisitions, like kind of all these different types of gigs. Some of them were utter failures, but we don't talk about those. And then some of them were really, really good. And I got to try, and you get to fail, and you get to try again, and you try doing these different things. Went as a buyer, got to run my own category for a couple of years, which I loved because it
Yeah.
was again negative, and I got to stand it up and make it positive, and do that work. And it was a great run for a
Yeah.
while, which was absolutely fantastic. And Target has good training, has good work-life balance, like some of the best training you could get through. So when you go to some places, people are experts. They teach you, they
Yeah.
coach you, and there were ERGs that support you. And there was, I don't know, you were coaching me
I
as I
mean,
was thinking through merchandising and how to look at that. Like it's awesome, right? So it was a great experience to go through for
yeah.
sure.
And so, I mean, and you don't work at Target today. So, and the
Yeah.
fact that you've been at all of these places tells me like one, you may have chronic ADHD. I'm not diagnosed
Yeah, a little bit.
yet, but
Yeah, yeah, for sure.
But same. I see you. I love
Yeah,
I love that whole idea of and I find in my coaching practice there's really two types of people. Launchers, which are like give me something that doesn't even exist and I'll stand it up. But then I want to
yeah,
go launch the next great thing, or let me look for all the things that are broken and I'll fix them. So there's also like
yeah,
I'll turnaround people, like they will just constantly fix things and can
yeah.
spend a long time somewhere because they're always finding things that are broken. And then I call the third one, which is the captain, which is like, I will stand and I will captain this ship. I will keep this
Oh
ship on
yeah.
course for a good long time. And those people are very happy, sort of,
You
keeping
need
things.
them.
Yeah. Yeah. I rarely see those in my line of work. Most of the time I see the startup or what I call launchers and turnaround people because they're like, I need to switch, like
Yeah,
something.
they're the ones that have the highest amount of angst,
Yeah,
right? Like
yeah,
if
yeah,
you're chronically happy and also thinking about what's next the entire time, you're like, what's next? What's next? And
yeah,
it can drive you kind of nuts, and it can drive people around you kind of nuts. But if you embrace it, that's who you are, right? As part of
yeah.
it.
What told you that it was time to leave Target?
The story really happened was that my wife got a my we well, not my wife got pregnant. We got pregnant and we had our first kid. And my wife was working for Accenture this entire time. And when she got pregnant, she moved to Target, and then there was a restructuring, and she got laid off from Target. And when the baby was born, she had this really cool contract opportunity that existed in Chicago.
Mm,
And when that contract opportunity happened, we both chatted about it. And she was like, "Hey, you already got a career going. You're in Target. You're doing well. This will require us to move for about a year, right? Like
mm,
we'll have to move." And I thought, like, you know what, man? Like at this point in time, I've learned a lot of things. We're still young. We just take the gamble and let's move. So it
yeah,
was great. We moved to Chicago for about a year and a bit. I worked for Sears there. I got a job at Sears, which was great because they had a lot of work-life balance. They were going through a lot of changes themselves. So I got to work from home. It was a remote job, which meant that I got to take care of my 1-year-old. And so I spent a lot of time taking care of her and bonding while my wife had to commute and go and do the job for a while. And we worked out there for a bit. We know family there, and it was a comfortable life. And like when a year was close to ending, I decided, hey, now let's look for something that's more concrete for both of us.
yeah.
Uh, and uh, and I started reaching out to my network and landed at Nike.
I mean, that's a big name.
It's a good name. And really, I think like we started off this conversation just talking about how do we move from one place to another. I think I applied to about 8,000 jobs at that point, right? Like it was like, I used to make myself like a mental map. Okay, I'm going to apply for 12 jobs every
Mm,
single day
yeah,
and just look out. And so 4 months before I actually landed a job, it was like apply, apply, apply. And you get in conversations, most of them don't land. You're just like filling out those, I forgot what it's called, but it's those terrible HR form that you
oh,
fill out everything, where no one
yeah,
responds back. They ask for a cover letter, you're just copy pasting your same cover letter for everything.
yeah,
And I applied for those, I don't know, like I must have applied for hundreds of jobs, getting like absolutely no callback. And then
yeah,
I happened to have a conversation with someone who worked with me at Target, and she was like, "Hey, there's a job opportunity here. Would you be interested in coming over?" She's like, "I don't know if this will land or not. You excited?" And all of a sudden, I got a HR call, and one conversation led to another, and then the opportunity landed, and so we came over. But it was like a numbers game. You just keep applying
yeah.
constantly.
Did you know what you wanted to do? Because you've had kind of a unique career. I mean, you haven't always been in finance. You had some unique opportunities at Target. And so now it's
Yeah.
like if you don't grow a linear career path, sometimes you can sort of land in the land of misfit toys where people are like, I don't know what to do with you. What were you sort of pitching that you could do for Nike? I mean, what was the value that you thought you could bring to Nike?
Oh, yeah, I was very honest with them. I'm actually really honest when it comes to interviews because I tend to be a little bit too informal when it comes to interviews. I tend to
Mm,
be just myself. So I'm just
yeah.
always like, hey, dude, yeah, I'm good at this. I'm terrible
Mm,
at these things. And I was very, very confident that, hey, if you want me to come in and solve a problem, I will go to depth to try to solve that problem. And the way I do it is to collaboration. I use whiteboards. I love workshops. I love strategy. I like thinking about big ideas and executing to make them come to life. I like doing that type of work. That's where my strengths are. And then my opportunities are I'm not exactly the most organized person on the planet, right? When it comes down to it, I'll probably need some help. That's where I lean on the team to kind
mm,
of keep me there. I know I'm a little scatterbrained when it comes to that. And then I can tend to be extremely informal, which is culturally, I need to see if that's a good fit. And so
mm.
that's kind of the way I kind of pitched it. It just happened to be a need that they had in the North America side where they were going through a whole looking at the way merchandising looks at analytics and strategy. across the board. And given my fact that I worked in strategy at Target and I was a merchant there and I was a buyer, that it kind of came together. There was like kismet that came together and put me there. And so
Yeah.
that was a good way for me to get my foot in. And then my whole question of interviewing them back was like, once I get bored, is there an opportunity for me to move to something else?
Yeah.
And they were like, yes, there is. So I thought,
Yeah.
okay,
You had a fun career at Nike. I mean,
I
looking
did.
your LinkedIn is seriously impressive. So it looks like you started out director of merch strategy analytics. You were living in Oregon. And then they said, hey, senior director, we're going to have you move to China.
Yeah, that's right. So again, it came down to like, what do you like to start or do? And
Mm,
Converse was a fledgling business
mm,
in Asia. And so they were pulling together a leadership team, putting together a function. They asked me if I've ever done planning before. I was like, no, I've never done planning before,
mm,
but I can learn. And they wanted someone who's coming in and try to grow a business. And I thought, hey, this is a great opportunity to go and start something new. And so
mm,
one conversation again led to another. And I was very upfront right from the scratch. Like, if there's ever an opportunity to go international and do this, I'd love to do it, right? It's a
mm.
global brand. Let's go. And so it was a cool opportunity, Jen, like being able to go to China, moving the entire family there. So thank you to my wife, who again had to drop her career to follow me with the two kids. We had a 1-year-old and a 3-year-old
My
coming
God.
with us to Asia and figure that all out. And was I would not one of the best experiences I think I've ever had
So cool.
going there.
So cool.
Yeah.
I think what's interesting about how you tell this story is, and I actually read a meme on the internet the other day that said self-awareness only for the sake of like your weaknesses is actually kind of a form of punishment. And what I love about how you tell this story about coming into Nike is that you were pretty self-aware. Like you had seen some things, you
Right.
had multiple jobs, you had put yourself in different settings, you had taken time to raise your child, and move and
Yeah.
support your wife and her career. And so you had a good sense of self identity from both I'm really good at this, I'm not so strong at this. And I think so
Yeah.
many times people try to hide those things that they're not strong at. Um,
Yeah.
and
And
it's
and
refreshing.
I think also like I'm a strong believer that you're like what you see on on LinkedIn is kind of a little jaded, right? It shows always progression in title or
Yes.
career, but it's not really, right?
Yeah.
Usually it's a lateral role that you take. Sometimes you don't have as much pay. Sometimes you take a pay cut to do those type of roles. But my own belief is like, hey, is it a cool experience? Is it gonna be a fun experience? Let me
Mm,
chase after the experience that I'm going to have. So
mm,
going to Asia and all that can be absolutely scary. It's like a new experience. You're taking the family, all that type of stuff. But at the same time, in the back of my head, I'm like, hey, I get to travel to
yeah.
Thailand, right?
Yeah.
Like I get to go and see a different country, and I get to eat a lot of dumplings. And like,
Oh
like
yeah.
this is
Oh
it.
yeah.
Let's go do it. And so I kind of again have that angst that I want to go and have a new experience, and it's like, what's next?
Yeah.
And that drove me to the to China for sure.
Yeah. What did your wife say when you said, "Hey, I've got this opportunity, we can move to China"? Was she like, "Giddy up, let's go," or what did that look
No, she was terrified. So she grew up in Appleton, Wisconsin,
like? Oh,
right? And she's Indian originally, but she grew up in Appleton, Wisconsin, in one of those like typical American neighborhood suburb, white picket fence. I think her dad did paint it white now. Yeah, so white picket fence. And so for her, the furthest she'd ever been till we got married and went through like 10 years of marriage from our house was Minneapolis,
yeah.
4.5 hours away. That was
Yeah.
the furthest she had ever been. So going to Portland for like a year and a half
Yeah.
initially was like a big move,
That is,
right?
yeah.
So she was like, oh my God, I'm going to be so far away from the parents. We're going to have
Yeah.
a baby, all that type of stuff. Where's the support? So she was terrified there. And then when we said we'd go to China, she was even more. But my approach even till now has been that the family does a vote.
Mm,
So before I even decided to take the job, we both went out there and we
mm,
did the look see. We went and saw what is the market like, where would we live, look at apartments and stuff like that. And then we do like a handshake, like, okay, we do this together, otherwise we don't do it.
yeah.
Um, and when we do that now, even with the kids, even as I'm now living in Boston, before
Yeah.
we came here, before I said yes, I came over here with the kids. We look at the schools, we look at everything, and then all four of us sit down and we do a vote. And
Yeah.
if the vote is no, even if it's good for my career, we say no. And
Yeah.
I've actually turned down jobs because of that.
Wow.
Which sometimes I still think about. I'm like, damn it, like I should have stayed in
That
that
was-
job. But we do it because you have to, otherwise you don't want resentment, that's part of it.
Yeah. Well, that's that whole ecosystem of like your career needs to fit in with your life, right? And
Oh
even
yeah, totally.
100% the right thing for you, but you come home and your family is miserable.
Oh
Well,
yeah.
at some point that's not going to be right for you either.
It's going to be miserable for me too, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, yeah. So you spent about 7 years at Nike. How did you know when it was time for the next thing?
Oh, it was actually, this is a pretty funny story, Jen. So I was sitting there. We were back in. I was back in Portland, which was rough, right? They dragged me back from China, and I was working in the strategy side and the global side. And I was sitting there just doing the work. I was just doing it day in, day out, day in, day out, day in, day out. And I was sitting there making decks and presenting decks to other people and making decks about decks that we're going to make for other meetings to decks to decks. And I was sitting there just making the decks. And this was probably the hardest move as part of it. But I sat there one day and my kid came over, my oldest child, her name is Asha. And Asha was like, yeah, I'm sick and tired of school. Right? This is during the COVID era, so she was still doing it remotely and stuff like that. And she's like, I'm sick and tired of school. So I was trying to be all the magnanimous dad. I was like, yeah, man, like, you know what? Education is really important. She wants to be a vet. So she was like, I was like, listen, Asha, you want to be a vet, right? She was like, yeah, I'm like, you need to know everything you need to know about animals. You need to know to do that. And she's like, yeah, I guess. And I was like, look, I'm like, take. I was like, let me find someone inspirational. So I was like, take your uncle. So my brother-in-law, he's a doctor. He's a pediatrician. He's an ER pediatrician. I'm like, he's a doctor, right? She was like, yeah, all wide-eyed. I'm like, he helps a lot of children. She goes, yeah. And I'm like, listen, he studied for years and years and years and years and years, and now he helps people. He helps sick people. He helps people who are dying. He helps them make them better. Don't you want to do that? She goes, yeah. And she looked at me, she's like you, Dad, right? You studied for years and years and years, and now you sell shoes. And I was like, ah, like, oh my God. And then I started getting my angst back, Jen. I was like, man, is this where it's come? Now, have I stayed at Nike too long? Am I
Mm,
still like where my strengths are, where my passions are of like creating something or driving something or owning something? Is that now am I settled? And what am I
yeah.
settling for? And I did my own self-reflection. And am I a strong believer of this that I started choosing my pride over my ego and my pride over what interests me. And what I
Interesting.
was doing was there was a carrot that was dangling in front of me. If you stay for a little bit longer, Gautham, you're going to be a VP. If you stay a little bit longer, your RSU will vest and you'll make money. Right? There's a golden handcuffs. There's that VP title hanging in front of me. And I was like, yes, I'll be a VP at Nike. And then I was like, but if I become a VP at Nike, I'll be selling just like, is that what I want to do? How long will I have to do this to do that? And is there better interests out there? Is there better things that
Mm,
drive my interests out there? So
yeah.
then I I just cast a net out. I was like, hey, what are places and organizations where either I get to be part of a growth journey, or if culturally it's a right connection for me, that's some place that I feel like culturally I can grow it, or I feel like there's causes behind it. And I happened to talk to again an ex coworker of mine who worked at REI, and she gave me the leg in to have a conversation with HR. And I did a little bit of networking, and all of a sudden REI came to me and said, "Hey, do you want to come over and work here in the hard goods space?" And I thought, you know what, REI is a great organization.
Yeah.
It's a co-op. I get to come in, I get to work in the hard goods space, I get to drive some strategy. Sure, we have to move to Seattle, but maybe this is the right time to do so.
Mm.
And my wife happened to just get a job at that same time with Amazon, who is from Seattle.
Oh my
So it
God.
kind of was like a little bit of a no-brainer, and we could make that move.
Yeah,
Uh,
there's some kismet with that. I mean, the
yeah,
both.
there is.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it worked out, and we moved up to Seattle
Okay.
for a couple of years.
What did you learn working at REI?
Oh, what a great organization. I mean, it's people led. They stay strong to their values, right? Community, in terms of getting people outdoors, in the quality of product that they do. Like REI, the good thing about REI is like there's corporate jargon everywhere, but they don't just say it, they actually mean it. And so the teams you work with really mean it. There's a lot of passion behind it. So bringing passion together, really thinking about like, hey, that right kind of balance for your team, for yourself, and then the connection to the community. I felt like, that's what I want to do. I want to do stuff now that when I go outside, I can be like, I'm proud about the
Yeah.
product I put. I'm proud about what the organization does.
Yeah.
And I felt like, okay, as a career path now, not only do I want to create something, or I want to continue that like fixer, doer, turnarounder, but I also want to be part of I always want to be part of an organization that I feel like, man, I want to be part of this organization too. And it's
Yeah.
not like Nike wasn't like that, but
Yeah.
I feel like REI felt more connected to my values. So I was
Yeah.
there for a couple of years, and then conversation, old Nike friends, and you have other conversations. Some recruiters start reaching out, and one thing happens to another, and you just have a phone call. You take a phone call, and I got lucky to land this job with
Mm.
Timberland,
Yeah.
and here I've been for 7 months now.
How's it going?
It's going good. I'm sitting here.
Hey,
Hey,
yeah.
you have all the shoes and the pro
You're
side.
like, did you say to Asha, Dad's back selling shoes again?
Dad's back selling shoes, yes. But it's when I think about selling shoes now, it's like how do I look beyond that, right? There's a brand that's I grew up with. There's an
Um,
emotional, cultural connection to it. My first shoe I bought when I came to Wisconsin, and because it was winter, I didn't have anything. And
what?
I was
I love
17
that.
years old, and I came in with nothing that was winter related. And my roommates were like, dude, you're gonna freeze. You
You got-
need to go get some boots. And so I went out and I got my first boot. So much so that I actually have a picture of me 19 years old, young, as a big family photo with my parents, all formally dressed up, like tie and a suit. It's a gigantic photo blown up on canvas on my parents' wall.
Yeah.
And in that photo, my foot is peeking out, and I'm wearing these boots
No
as
way.
part of it. And every single time my parents walk past, they're like, "Man, you look so good, so formal," till you look down at your foot, and I'm like, "What is that?"
Yeah, yeah.
What is-
But who knew? Who
Yeah,
knew
who
the
knew? Who knew?
symbolism in that picture of
Yeah,
what was
totally.
going to happen? Well, I mean,
Yeah,
there are five things that make people happy inside of their careers, and you've hit on a lot of these, but and I'll tell you, I've done the research on this. It's the same five
yeah,
things over and over and over again. First is security, which is like money, benefits, job continuity, that feeling of safety, right? The second is community, the people that I work with, the people that I get
yeah,
to learn from every day. Third is the ability to grow and learn, right? I want to grow and learn in ways that I value. The fourth is self-esteem. I want my work to feel good, feel good to me, right? I want to feel like
yeah,
my skills are being used well, that the company appreciates my efforts, that this
yeah,
feels good for me. And then the last is purpose. And
yeah,
throw kids and a wife into that, and
yeah.
you're balancing your own set of five things while everyone else is balancing their own set of five things. And
I like those. I'm like, I should be writing this
oh
down.
yeah, I can send I can send you a sheet
Yeah,
that summarizes these. But what I hear about your story is the balance of these five things, whether intentional or unintentional,
yeah,
and sort of saying like, gosh, if something falls out of balance for too long, right? Because things are
yeah,
going to fall out of balance from time to time. Hey, I have to take a pay cut for this role, but there's huge upside in this other thing, or my work doesn't have a lot of purpose right now, but all of a sudden a strategy shifts and you're like, oh my gosh, the clouds part, and you're like, I see it, I'm
oh
aligned.
yeah,
And so sometimes it's like figuring out how long do I stay and put up with the imbalance before I say, gosh, I think I've got to go
oh
somewhere,
totally.
put this all back in balance again.
Oh, you know if it's not the right time, or
Yeah.
it's like, yeah, I agree with you. I think like the one thing that why Timberland was really important for me was the connection,
Mm,
and then I love the purpose of it. I like the fact that the quality is something they really care about. Like
yeah.
it's like if I make safety shoes, why
Yeah.
is it like the safety shoes like the obsession? The obsession is part of it, and it scratches a little itch for me. That was part of it, and it combines with everything else you're just talking about,
Yeah.
with being able to be appreciated, with being able to create my own fate or create something out of nothing, and I think that's what makes me happy.
Yeah. When you interviewed at Timberland, did you tell them what your strengths and weaknesses were?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I always feel like I don't want to surprise them because it's interviewing them, right? At the same time, if I tell them that, like, look, honestly, I kind of suck at, you know, or organization, or if I suck at, I'm like super obsessive about certain things, and then just like this is not going to work out for me, right? It shouldn't be a surprise later. I should be like, hey, look, I told you I'm a roller coaster.
Yeah.
Like this is it. Right? That's part of it. So.
Yeah. Gautham, when you think of your story and all of the things that you've done so far inside of your career, what's one thing that you hope someone takes away from your story?
Career is just like one part of where you want to be in your life, right? There are so many other things to it. Like there is family that's really important. There's your end goals, whether it's your savings, you want to travel, you have a bucket list. There's experiences you want to experience, whether it's go international, whether it's move around the country, whether it's start something new, whatever. And then there's career as like your own satisfaction, etc. I think career is just like one finger in your on your hand, right? As part of it. And my takeaway is, in my understanding always is like every single thing as a risk always kind of pans out, but you just got to take that leap. If you look at it and you compare, oh, the grass was green or like the other side of the fence, it doesn't matter, right? Don't look. Grass is brown everywhere, grass is green everywhere. It just depends on your perspective. As long as you just think about, you take the risk, don't have such a strong goal to work towards. Go after the experiences, go after all the other five things in your fingers that make you happy.
Yeah.
And you can find that balance, career then becomes an easier mindset for you to have because
Mm.
4 out of the 5 fingers might go well, one finger might not, and that's okay, right? You'll
Yeah.
course correct later.
Yeah.
And that's kind of been my philosophy and my takeaway. If you look at the career, I've just taken the risks. I've just kind of gone anywhere, and if it happens, it happens. If it doesn't happen, it's okay. Next step. You can just tell another story, you know?
I love that. Gautham's story is a reminder that your career doesn't have to follow a straight line to be meaningful. It's okay to chase the experience, to pivot when the story no longer fits, and to make career decisions with your whole life in mind, not just your job title. If you're feeling the itch to do something new, let this be your nudge. Take the risk, try the thing. You can always tell another story. Thanks for listening.